if you want to get rich and you want to make serious money, that you got to be extremely motivated to do so. And a lot of people shit on motivation nowadays, but motivation gives you a push. Let me put it like this. Let's say that you had two scenarios. Number one scenario is a family member of yours is about to die within the next month if you don't make 10K a month, 5K a month, whatever, versus you just want to go make 10K a month because you want to travel a little bit. Which scenario is more likely to make you extremely rich? Obviously, it's the first one. Why? Because you have more leverage. And you got to understand this. If you have leverage, it pushes your brain to give you a new level of insight. Okay? Now, I'm not saying put yourself in a situation where it's life or death for a family member, but it should be kind of near life or death for you. And there's a lot of different ways that people are unaware of, right, that you can use to actually get this leverage on yourself so that you feel like, fuck, I really need to get rich now. I really need to do this now. And you get so much push, okay, and urgency. And I'll give you another example, right? Let's say that back in the day, you had these homework assignments, and if you probably heard your teacher say this at some point to you. You have like a week to finish this, right? Versus a month to finish it. You're going to do the exact same job, the exact same quality of a job. If you get a month versus if you get a week. Same thing with money. If I give you $1,000 to survive the month or $1,000 to survive the week, largely you're going to spend the whole fucking thing, okay? Because that's how humans are wired, right? So this concept plays into, and I forget the name of that fucking scientist who came up with that shit, but this concept largely plays into what I'm telling you here. Because if you have like urgent reasons to make it, okay, if you can get yourself leverage to urgently want to make it, then you're going to get a new level of insight and you're going to push yourself, etc., right? So how do you do that? Well, first of all, you have to understand the fundamental rule that your brain is going to move towards pleasure and away from pain. And that is a principle that you want to be using for yourself rather than against yourself. Because most people, they are not aware of this, but they actually use that shit against themselves. So they basically have negative associations towards becoming more wealthy. Like, oh, what are my friends going to think of me? This and that and this and that. No, you want to have negative associations to staying broke, and you want to have positive ones to getting rich, to going in that direction, okay? And so if you have that, you can have that also to a certain multiplier effect, right? To a certain degree. Like you can have, as I said, the scenarios in the beginning of this video, you can either have a lot of leverage and you're going to get there faster, and a lot of urgency and you're going to get there faster, or you can just have a little bit, okay? And then you're obviously not going to get there as fast. Same concept as if you give yourself a week versus give yourself a month. So let's talk about that a little bit. And these are all things that I literally actively use myself, right? Because you got to psych yourself up a little bit. So anyways, you got to think of yourself, right? And you got to think and have a good think, like, hey, what are the things that really juice me? That like, why do I really, really want this? And then you want to basically line that out in a couple different scenarios. So you want to have your higher level motivations, okay? And you want to have your lower level motivations. What I mean by that is you have your higher level motivations, which are like spiritual, like, okay, you want to give back to the world, you want to leave a legacy for your family, that kind of stuff. But then also at the same time, there's nothing wrong with having some selfish motivations, right? So what really is something that motivates you and that psychs you out? So on a selfish level, are you someone who's more materialistic, or are you someone who's very social and you want to have people around you and stuff like that? You want to throw cool parties, you want to live in a cool place, whatever, right? Whatever it is for you, you got to think of, and then you got to use that and give yourself urgency for and through that, okay? So how do you do that? Well, very simply said, you just essentially start creating things in your mind that are going to happen, right? If you are able to achieve X, Y, Z. So you just ask yourself, like, listen, if I were to make 10K a month, 50K a month, 100K a month, whatever, in these scenarios that are most desired by me, what would it mean for me there, right? What could I do then? And then you want to start like putting those things in place already. So let's say that you really want to get to, okay, I'll give you a very simple example. You want to like move to a major city and that really motivates you. Well, then what you want to do, if let's say that you need to make XYZ amount for that, then what you want to do, instead of just keep working until you have that amount, literally go talk to realtors, go set things up, tell them like, hey, I'll be ready in like 2 months, right? And go set things up, get your visa ready, get this and that ready, right? Literally start that process. And then get a deadline for yourself, okay? By this date, I'm moving in, or literally try to like already sign a contract. If you put yourself in those types of situations, yes, it's a bit stressful, but stress is what's going to make you grow and expand, and it's going to push you forward. The wrong approach, right, is that you say like, oh yeah, I'm just going to go and live in a cheap place now for like a long time, and then when I really make this point, then I'll start thinking about doing those things that I really want. No. Yes, you can go to that cheap place, but already have that deadline that you're going to go to the place that you really want to go to, because that's going to push you. So look, the main message of this video is that you want to use the things that you really want to get like milestones and push yourself and create urgency through those things, okay? Because that's going to allow you to come up with bigger things, with bigger, faster ideas. If you have to do it faster, right? If you can also ask yourself this: if I had to do this twice as fast, if I had to get here in XYZ time, then how would I do it? It's actually funny because Elon Musk did something like that pretty recently with his employees, where they said like, hey, it's going to take like 12 years or something like that to get to this goal that you have. It's really, really hard. And then he just said to them, listen, we need to do this in 6 months. And everybody said, no, throwing a fucking temper tantrum. And then, you know, where it ended up is like, he said, listen, if we had to do it in 6 months, what would we do? And then they came up with ideas, and then guess what? They fucking did it in 6 months, ultimately, because your mind is just going to give you the answers when you start asking the right questions. And the right questions also come from being put in a situation where you have to ask those questions, right? If nobody put the urgency on that fucking project, they wouldn't have asked those questions and they wouldn't have gotten those answers. And that's the same thing, right? So if you lock in like a trip, or you lock in like an apartment, or you lock in something that makes you be like, oh shit, I have to make it fucking happen, then your brain is going to give you those ideas, because your brain is lazy as fuck, okay? Your brain is so designed to so work against you that you really got to trick that fucker, because it literally is designed to make you unsuccessful. Or at least to keep you in the same level of success that you've always been in, okay? It doesn't want you to grow. It doesn't want to do things fast. It just wants to save time, save energy, and stay in its little fucking comfort zone, because that is what it knows it's gonna survive. But that is not what you want. You want to be happy, successful, okay, rich, whatever. You want to get everything you want, and you want to get everything back to your family. You have a fucking obligation to do so, in my opinion. All right, so literally, that's what you got to do. You got to shift into that urgency, and don't let people tell you to like, oh, just take it easy and this and that and this and that. No, okay? Go for that shit that you really want, put it in place so you have a real urgency to move there, okay? Another funny thing that I'll tell you, right? Another way to give yourself urgency, because urgency is so important, guys. What I used to do when I was 18, I dropped out of high school and started my first business. Okay, I got to about $4K a month in like 4 months. Yeah, funnily enough. And from there on, what happened is, don't I look absolutely beautiful, guys, today? I've really noticed every year that goes by, I look more and more handsome. But that's besides the point. Anyways, people always tell me I look like Brad Pitt. Not a big deal. Anyway, we're having a very serious video, and not anymore, I guess. But listen, a thing that I always used to do is when I started this business at 18, this and that, I always gave myself a lot of urgency, because I was like, well, I have to achieve XYZ by this age. Otherwise, I'm just not good enough, or otherwise I'm just a piece of shit. Otherwise I'm incapable, whatever. And that gave me so much drive, because age is literally time bound, right? So that gives me a lot of urgency. Whereas otherwise, if I would just say, I want to achieve this, and yeah, I want to do it fast, but there's no necessary reason that why it would be better this year than next year, then I wouldn't have the same psychological push. Okay. And then I ended up actually making 2 million before I was like 20 or 21. Yeah, I remember it was like my 20th birthday or something like that. Anyways, there's other videos on my channel about those results. I'm not gonna like take the effort, to be honest, to put all screenshots in here. But the main point is the lesson that I'm giving you from it. The main point is that is like a way to give yourself leverage, right? And you can be creative with this. So that's a way. Another way is to sign a lease for an apartment. That's like a little out of your comfort zone, okay? And obviously don't go too crazy with this. There's always a balance, right? You can't also, if this is way too safe, this is too dangerous, signing a 10K a month apartment. If you make a 10K a month, don't do that, right? Like don't go too crazy with it. But you can definitely give yourself those pushes and put yourself in environments where you're pushed to grow. And that's also another thing, right? What I said about the city thing. Put yourself in an environment where you're like the small guy, where you're like, oh shit, I feel uncomfortable now. Put yourself in an environment where you would feel uncomfortable if other people would know how much money you made. Now that is going to really push you, okay? Because humans are social animals. And so a lot of people that I've seen, they want to put themselves in environments where they're like, yeah, I'll go there once I make enough and then I'll go there. Well, actually, it doesn't work like that. If you go there now, you're going to make that much way faster because you're around that and you're having this extra push because you don't want to be embarrassed, right? Embarrassment, etc., is one of the strongest forces for motivation because we're social animals. Why are we actually that? Why are we actually social animals? Why is that so important? Why is that such a good motivation? Well, it's because we grew, we were basically evolved from the caveman, right? Where we were in a tribe of like 50 to 100 people. And so if you weren't in a good social standing in a tribe, you were kicked out, you were dead. Okay. And so that's why that's one of the biggest motivators. And so if you get into a tribe like that, right, and you get into that situation, it's going to give you an enormous push. So that's another one. Okay. I'm just giving you some examples of getting yourself leverage. And you can also go more extra abstract with it. Like, hey, what if I don't do these things? What would that mean? Or like, what would the impact be on my future kids, right? Et cetera, et cetera. You can visualize into these things. But that is really the main message in this video is give yourself urgency and put yourself in positions where you really want to do it. Because I swear to God, this will make you so much more money if you apply it properly than just going after it to go after it, right? If you put yourself in these situations where you have to do it by X date, right? And there's reasons for that, and there's serious things in place for that, it's gonna work much better. You're gonna make more money, you're gonna be more happy, and life is just better that way. I'll catch you in the next one. I hope that helps. Check out the link in the description if you want some extra help, and let's make it happen, my man.